Hi there everybody, welcome back again to At Home with Dyslexia Scotland. This session for about 15 minutes or so we're going to talk about organisation. And I think I said to you in one of the parent masterclasses that organisation is a problem to many people with dyslexia. It's one of the 5 executive functions of the brain that does often need a lot of support and explicit teaching over many years. So don't just assume that certainly at this moment in time that the work that is coming in for our children, they're able to organise and chunk what they've got to do themselves. So quite a lot of support is needed. So I'm going to give you some top tips today, along with William behind the camera again, and Amelia's here also to show you some of the things that she's been doing during this lockdown period. So again, come on in, let's have a look at some of the things we've got on the table today. First thing I'm going to show you is a little bit of a resources box that could be on the table as you get started each day. The problem being is that when you get up, start looking for a pencil, takes 2 or 3 minutes, the anxiety builds and the desire to get the work done is lost. So if you've just got a very simple box on your table with everything you think you might need for all of the times, for all of the occasions you've got to do some work at the moment, then just keep that box on the table or nearby. So I've got a few things to show you that's inside this box that you might find really helpful. Not just the pens and the pencils, because they're quite essential to most things we do, but things like some highlighters. Highlighters are great for comprehension, for highlighting spelling words, for example. So they're very useful. On the side here, I've got some post-it notes. Post-it notes are great for remembering things, writing down ideas, and maybe some little plain white card for revision cards or spellings that you might have that week. Also inside this box I've got a whiteboard at the back here. You don't have to have anything as sort of fancy as this. If you like, you can just use white paper. I've got a ruler on hand. A ruler is always really useful, obviously, and when we go searching for one of those it takes us sort of 4 or 5 minutes to do that. The calculator's on hand straight away, just in case you need that for some numeracy. I've also got here something for the younger ones, maybe an alphabet arc that you could place on the table on all occasions for reading and for spelling. Some coloured paper. There's some really nice coloured paper pads out there at the moment if your children prefer writing on coloured paper. So these are called pucker pads. You can get those from Amazon. Your magnetic letters or your tiles or your tactile objects that you need to build your spellings, etc. And maybe a dictionary and your reading book as well to help you along the way. So they're all to hand with you. Now, one of the other things that we've discussed as well in the past is time, having a sense of time, not telling the time, but I want you to work for 10 minutes, or what does 10 minutes feel like and what does 10 minutes look like? So as part of that organisation, making time come alive is a really useful thing to do. And something as simple as a timer like this, or a timer that you've got on your clock wall or on your cooker, would really help to show that we're making a deal here. We're going to work for 10 minutes and I'm going to show you what you can do in 10 minutes. This one's great because you can just simply add the time in here. I've just put 1 minute on here, and then the time becomes colour coded. And as you get halfway through the time you've agreed, it becomes orange. When that time is up, it becomes red. If you've then achieved everything within that 10 minutes, then it would be time for a brain break without a doubt. But you'll see the colour change going on through this. I'm just going to leave that on. It's on for a minute. I've also got here something called a communication block. And while you're sat and you're talking and you're giving ideas, you're giving instructions, sometimes we find it quite tricky to take all those instructions in and also to say, well, actually, I don't understand. And saying I don't understand and asking for help, both at home and in the classroom environment, is really difficult. So one of my friends, one of my young entrepreneurs, came up with this idea of a communication block. And you could have something very simple, maybe some squares or circles on the table that are coloured that you could point to if you don't understand. And the green is, well, yeah, I'm okay, I'm with you, I understand what you're saying. Orange, I'm not quite sure. And obviously the red, can we do that again, please? I really don't understand. So these are a great way of communicating for those children who really don't want to ask for help. Okay, so that's our resources box. I'm just going to put that to one side, and obviously you can put anything in there, and the timer's gone to red now as well. Now, organising ideas, organising a story. Imagine that the brain is a little bit like a messy bedroom. There's stuff everywhere and you don't know where to start. What goes in the beginning of that story? What goes in the middle? What goes at the end? Or an essay for the older children. So one way to do this is to grab all of those ideas, grab them all onto sticky bits of paper, onto post-it notes. Now I've just numbered them here. Obviously on these sticky bits of paper would be the ideas for the story. And you put them down on the sticky pieces of paper in any order whatsoever. Once you've got the ideas, the aim would then be to order that story in order to be able to write it up or type it up. You can then draw some form of diagram. It doesn't really matter what it is. I've just drawn a mountain here. A mountain to symbolise the beginning of a story, the highlight or the climax of the story, and the end of the story. You would then discuss together which one goes where. So one of the ideas might be right at the beginning of the story. So your number one would come off, your first idea, and it would go here at the beginning of the story mountain. You would then continue to order all of the ideas as you go through and stick them onto the story mountain. Once you've got them in the right order, you can then start writing the story up. And you can start with small sentences and get them bigger and bigger, adding in other ideas, adjectives, verbs, etc. And they're called stretchy sentences. So we start small, we go to the top of the story mountain, and we go to the end. So all these ideas that were a little confused and a little disorganized in the brain have come out onto one piece of paper and been ordered onto another. And similarly, you can do this with any other activity if it goes further up the scale, writing essays, writing dissertations, or whatever it could be. And what you're actually doing here is giving a scaffold, a framework for those ideas. So again, if you've got somebody in secondary at the moment who has to, for example, write an essay on a for or against argument. And again, get those ideas, throw them down onto the paper. This time it might be an idea to colour code them and to say, well, that would be your against argument, that would be your for argument. Once you've got all those ideas down, take a very simple framework. And as you can see, I've just simply hand drawn this one. You can do it in any way, shape or form. You then order those ideas that have already been colour coded. So your intro's going up there, you had an idea for a conclusion here, you had 2 arguments against, 2 arguments for. Once all these ideas are then in a structured order, then you can start writing it up or typing it up. Starting at the for, at the against, it doesn't really matter where you start if you're typing this up. So it's a lovely framework, a lovely idea to structure essays, organisation of stories, because the ideas are there, they're often just a little bit muddled. Okay, let's move on to organising the work that's coming in at the moment in many, many homes. And there's quite a lot coming in for some children, younger or older. What we need to do is start chunking that and alleviate the anxiety that goes along with it for many, many children at the moment. These ideas are really, really simple, but they're very, very effective. So I've literally got here a tray with 5 folders in, and these folders are labelled Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. As you can see, it's all handmade. All of these are completely handmade. What I need to do is take those 5 folders and order and chunk the work that is coming in. So 5 of them along one side, and all I'm going to do is do the work that is in that folder for that day and no more. So let's take an example. We are going to use these cards as a symbolisation of the work that's coming in. So for example, if I have English coming in and I've got maybe 2 or 3 hours of work to do on English, I'm not going to do that on one day. I'm going to make myself a very simple timetable. Again, this is handmade with a piece of paper inside a Polly Pocket. I'm going to split this 2 hours of English work up over a number of days. So I might do some English on this day, and I might do a little bit more on this day, and then maybe a little bit more here. So I've split the activity over 3 days. So this does not appear overwhelming. I'll then take my Monday folder and I'll put an English section in there, and I'll put another piece in the Wednesday and another piece in the Friday. That's my English sorted. I might have a little bit of music to do, and this might take 2 different activities. So I might put some music in there and perhaps some music in on Wednesday, because everything's due for Friday. So I'll then take my Tuesday folder and my Friday folder, and I'll split my music up over 2 days as well. And I then got a little geography activity to do, and this is quite a short one, so I'm just going to get this out the way on Monday as well, and I'm going to put all the information I need for my geography in there. At the same time, this is now Monday pretty full, I also want to read a book at some point, so I'll take my book and I'll pop that in my Monday folder. Monday's ready to go, and that's going to go in my tray ready for me to look at on Monday. Okay, so I've still got some activities left. French is being asked over 2 sessions, so I might do a little bit of French on Friday and perhaps do a little bit more on Thursday. So they'll go into my Thursday and my Friday folders, along with a story that I'm going to read on the same day as well. And then I've got quite a few maths activities to do. So again, I'm going to fit these into my timetable here. And for the older children, I might have to extend that and have 3 or 4 sessions per day. So my folders are now chunked with the amount of work that I was given on a Monday of activities to do throughout the day. That could be 2 activities, that could be 3, that could be 4. So once you've achieved this, and once you've done the activity, the best thing about this kind of layout is that you've done your reading, so you rub it out. And that is a success. This is where we're building self-esteem. I've done my reading, it's gone, it's disappeared. I've done my spelling or whatever that activity was there, and I've rubbed it out and I've done it. And then I can start refilling my folders again. But the aim is to chunk everything that comes in. It appears overwhelming. Help your children to organise, help them to put it into different colour-coded folders, and do each activity short chunks each day. While you're doing these short chunks, you can then set your timer. So you've decided you're going to read for 10 minutes. 10 minutes is fantastic every day. Set the timer for 10 minutes and enjoy a story together if you can. Okay, so that's chunking of activities. I've got Amelia now, who's going to show you some of the things that she's been doing in lockdown to help her to cope with the amount of work that's coming in, and she's got some more ideas for you. So I'll just hand over to Amelia for a second.
I always have a checklist of what I need to do each day. I just pick a few tasks and then I complete what I can in that day. I colour code most of my work in my jotters with these highlighters. I have this book, so I do work in this section here. And then I can look at the divider here, and then I go into my art section where I've got shading to do or draw something like a flower. And then I would recommend having folders for each subject and obviously colour code them. And so we've got red for French, black for geography, pink for English, green for maths, and have a folder for your homework and for letters coming home from school.
That's great. And another thing that you could add on to there if you wanted to, that Amelia mentioned to me earlier, was that she can take the colour-coded folders and then she can colour-code her timetable as well, because we are considering at the moment the transition to secondary that is going to be happening for some children. So colour-coding your folders really helps you to get ready the night before as well. Look at your timetable. French might be in red, as Amelia's just said, and then she would colour-code her timetable in red as well, so she knows that all she has to do is pick up the red folder. And inside this red folder for French would be her French jotter and her all her French vocabulary that she might need for the session, as well as pens and pencils. So everything you need for one lesson is in one packet. So the top tip of the organisation session that we've done today is to break everything down, chunk everything, do it in tiny bits of information, tiny bits of activity. Colour coding is a great way for organising the brain, and put everything out so it's visual for you. Always visual, always auditory, and always kinesthetic. And for now, that's the end of another session of At Home with Dyslexia Scotland. It was lovely to see you again, and we'll see you again very soon.